Hi everybody, I'm so glad you're joining me today for my presentation, What is a Coach? My name is Amy Pleet-Odle and I'm the founder of Inclusion Focused Coaching. I have been a coach for over 35 years and I'm sharing with you today some of the things that I've learned over that journey. So whether you are a beginning coach or whether you have been a coach for years, I hope that what I'm going to be sharing with you is something new that can help you reflect on what it means to be a coach and will improve your coaching practice. This is also a preview for my Inclusive Coaching Cadre. I believe that many coaches in the instructional field are pretty much hanging out there alone. And if we formed a cadre to support each other and to enhance our own coaching skills and strategies, it would be helpful for all of us. So come along with me. Let's figure out, what is a coach? We're going to begin today with this cartoon. I woke up a morning not too long ago with this cartoon in my head, and I called my web designer and said, "Can you draw this picture?" You see a boy here sitting on the bench saying, "I will when I get good. When I get good, I'll get up and throw baskets." We see this all the time in our work. We see students who go, "Oh, I'm not going to put that problem on the board in math because I'm not any good at math," or "I'm not going to raise my hand when I have a question talking about this piece of literature because I might ask a stupid question." We also see teachers who get a new strategy and go, "Well, when I'm good at it, then I'll experiment it. I don't want to have something fail in front of my class." But just like this boy, if he doesn't get up and start throwing baskets, there's no way he's ever going to get good. You get good by trying, failing, figuring things out, and keep going. And so when we are a coach, we need to set the tone and the culture for it's okay to fail. It's failing that helps you become proficient at something. And so, just like this boy, we want to encourage teachers, students, whoever it is you're coaching, to get up there, try it, and see how it goes. I'm going to be using this diagram for my discussion of what is a coach. This is something that I learned 35 years ago from my coach and mentor, Art Nirenberg from Breakthrough Disability. We used this every time we got together, and I'm going to break it down and show it to you in pieces. I think it's a very useful framework for thinking about what it means to be a coach. Now, if you're a coach, you have to have somebody who is in action. I'm going to call him the actor. This could be somebody who is an athlete in any field, a dancer, an artist, some kind of performer. It could be a teacher who is in action as a teacher. It could be a learner in any field who is learning something new. So the coach needs somebody to coach, somebody who is an actor in the field. What you know about an actor is that they need to be focused on what's happening right now. If they're an athlete out on the football field, they need to be aware of where the ball is, where the opposing team is, where their colleagues are, the other members on their team. They need to be paying attention to what's happening right now. The same with a performer. A violinist needs to know exactly what is the note they're playing and what are the other pieces of the orchestra doing, what is the conductor doing with them right now. A teacher needs to be focused on what they're teaching right now. They can't be thinking about the past or the future. They need to be focused on right now, and they need to be in action. So everything that a coach does is about helping that actor be effective in action, which includes failing sometimes and learning from those mistakes. The best example I know of an actor in action is this toddler learning to walk. Now, this toddler is in action all the time. They're always thinking about pulling themselves up, falling down, taking a step, falling down, leaning a little too far to one side, falling down. Everybody around them expects them to fall a whole lot of times. You don't hear anybody saying, "Well, balance was off that time. Left foot moved too far to the right that time." Nobody gives that kind of critique. Everybody says, "Yay, did you see that? That's great." We all know that toddlers are going to figure it out for themselves. They're going to fall a zillion times and then they're going to figure it out. That's the culture we want to establish as coaches, that it's fine to mess up, to try it, to experiment with it, and come up with your own method for walking or teaching or being an athlete, or whatever the field is. So back to the diagram. What is a coach? So there we've got the actor in the center. And you see on the left-hand side, we have the coach's circle, and on the right, we have critic. Now, I'm going to set the coach aside for a minute and talk about what it means to be a critic, which is quite different from being a coach. A critic is somebody after the fact who writes about it. It could be the critic that writes a newspaper article after the great game. This athlete did this, the star of the game didn't do that, or did do that, full of opinions and judgments, including comparison with how this team did compared to the other, or the way the person played this time compared to the other, reactions, advice, blame, oh, they shouldn't have done it that way, what's right, what's wrong, lots of opinion. These folks, the critic, it's all about my expertise. Let me tell you what I know about this person and what my expectations were for this person to perform. Now, the critic is talking about it after it happens. This is like a principal who comes in after the teacher has already done a lesson and writes up a little critique of what they saw. They write their formal evaluation. Nothing that the critic writes can help the actor become more effective in action. Let me say that again. Nothing the critic writes or says can be effective in action if it's delivered from that circle. If it's delivered as a judgment and opinion, then the actor can't use that information to be more effective. Because there is something we call the vicious cycle. In the vicious cycle, the actor gets caught up in all of this judgment. Either that was the most amazing performance that I've ever seen from that singer, or that was the worst performance I ever saw, or you did a good job, not good job, you got a B minus, whatever. Once the actor is caught up in that judgment, in the vicious cycle, they go into reaction. What do you mean? They may be upset. They may be confused. They may be in a swirl. So he wrote up that I didn't teach that way, but what does that mean? What am I supposed to do instead? Or they may go into the victim martyr, like, well, people are always saying this about me. Or they're trying to please somebody. Oh, I'm going to do better the next time. I'll do this. But the critic, even though they're the expert and they seem to know it all, are not providing information that's really helpful to the actor. And sometimes the actor goes into a kind of a hopeless resignation, despair. And we often see this with teachers who we say are burned out. They're so caught up in the critic judgment of themselves that why should I bother? And so this becomes inaction as opposed to inaction. So I asked the folks on my webinar what they saw from this, and I want to play for you a little bit about what the folks on the webinar had to say as they looked at the interaction between the actor and the critic and the vicious cycle.
I think that I may be one of the most novice coaches on the panel. And so for me, I have it's not been a long time since I've been a member of the vicious cycle, I guess I could say. I've experienced those emotions. So for me, this has just become really interesting because one of my goals, and I was coached by Taisha, and Taisha, you are not one of the people who put me in a vicious cycle. So know that. One of my goals, though, is to make sure that I don't ever do that to someone else. I want to be able to coach effectively without putting someone feeling like they have to be reactive or confused or just uncomfortable in their teaching, because it's hard enough as it is.
Okay, I think we're ready to talk about the coach now. So what is the difference between being a critic, the expert, and being a coach? A coach is someone who looks at the actor and sees a vision of the strengths that that actor has and the possibilities for how that actor could be really effective. The coach is committed to that actor becoming more and more proficient, not just critiquing them, but becoming more effective in building on their strengths. They see an opportunity in working with the actor. They make a declaration, we can work on this together. I know you can become good at this. They make a declaration of this is a stand, this is where we're going, this is where we want to work together. A coach has integrity. If they say they will send a piece of information, they send it. If they say, I'll be in your room third period, they're there. If they say, I'm going to have somebody talk to you because I think you two would connect and this would be really helpful for you, then they follow through with that. If they're not able to keep their word, then they say, I wasn't able to keep my word. Let's make a new agreement. Let's do this instead. But they have integrity and they're trustworthy. Now, distinctions is the only thing in this circle that has to do with the knowledge base of the field they're working in. A tennis coach has to know the difference between a forehand and a backhand grip. What's the distinction? I don't know any for football, but in a coach for special education, they need to know the difference between an accommodation and a modification, and they need to be able to deliver that in a way that it's helpful. If they're working in the field of special ed co-teaching, they need to know the difference between one teach, one support, and parallel teaching and alternative teaching. They need to know these distinctions, and they need to be able to relay that information to the actor in a way that that's useful information for them. The coach also stimulates creativity and choice. We don't want these actors to be carbon copies of each other. You want that dancer to have their own personality come out in the dancing, that artist have their own art come out in their work, or the star baseball player to be the best they can be, not a clone of each other one. The same is true for teachers. Each teacher brings his own personality, his own levels of expertise, his own specialties, and the coach wants to help that actor bring out their own individuality. The coach also has to bring courage. It takes courage to have coaching conversations with people, not just give a polite answer, or not just flip over into the critic circle where it's easy to be the expert giving some judgment. It takes courage to stay in the coach's circle. And it takes a certain passion for what they do. The bottom line is the coach is empowering action. What the coach does is not about the coach himself. It's about having that actor blossom. And I have a great quote for that. This quote comes from the Coach Approach to School Leadership. And the quote is, the best principals are not heroes, they are hero makers. I'd like to substitute the word coach for that. The best coaches are not heroes, they are hero makers. They make a hero out of that actor that they are coaching. So, back to the diagram. In order for the coach to be successful and interact with that actor, there are certain things that need to be in this bridge. And again, I threw it open to the folks in my webinar. What words would you put in the bridge? What needs to be there for that coach to interact effectively with the actor? And here's what they said.
You need to be present, and you need to be present frequently. So I think a lot of times that critic is a one and done and not consistently over time at different times of the day, different times of the year, good times, bad times. What happens in September is not the same thing that happens in April.
Yes. Good. Okay.
You have to build trust.
That's what I was going to say, trust.
Trust. Yes. Yes. And that goes both ways. If the actor doesn't trust this coach to be on their team, helping them, they're not going to trust anything they say. But does the coach trust the actor to try? And I believe in you, and I trust that you can do this, and you're going to figure it out. So that trust has to go both ways. Okay? Any other words?
I think you have to use some humor while you're working with them.
I should have put that in here. I like that. Yes. Yes. So now we need to talk about what's happening between the coach and the actor. And there is a bridge here. What are the words that need to go into that bridge? How does that coach interact with the actor? So I have a few words here. One, relationship. They have to start with having a relationship with that actor taking the effort, taking the initiative to build a relationship with that actor, whether it's a teacher, dancer, performer, athlete, really getting to know them. There has to be two-way communication where the coach is listening to the actor, taking a look at their body language, picking up all the nonverbal cues, and the actor is communicating back to the coach what concerns they have, what they want to improve in, what issues and challenges they're up against. There has to be trust and respect between both the coach and the actor. That has to go both ways. I have the word inquiry and questions there, and I want to pause for a moment and talk about that. The coach can't step in like a critic and say, well, here's the solution, here's what you need to do, I have the answers, this is what you do. That's not being a coach, that's being the critic. A coach would say, let's take a look at an area you could improve and invite the actor to be in an inquiry with them. What are the areas you want to improve in? What do you see as possible already? What is the challenge? What ideas do you have? So the coach is asking questions to empower that actor to come up with their own solutions. There needs to be permission both ways. The coach has to say, do I have your permission to really ask some hard coaching questions or give you some feedback that's not in the critic circle, but it's designed to help you improve? And the actor says, do I have permission to tell you how I feel about these new ideas? There needs to be freedom and flexibility and listening. And again, courage needs to be added to the circle. Also, there needs to be acknowledgement where the coach says to the actor, you have so much that's working in your favor. There are so many good things you're doing now. We're talking about adding an additional tweak, a little more improvement. Let's try this other thing. It wouldn't take much for you to go beyond what you're doing now in small increments in order to have the growth that you're looking for. And you notice growth is on there. The coach and the actor both need to be focused on growth. And that could be part of the permissions. It could be part of the agreements earlier. And the bottom line is the bottom line, of course, is empowerment. So if you look at the purple words all the way across, the actor is in action. The critic is talking about action. The vicious circle is where they are stalemated in action. And the coach is empowering action of the actor. Again, I asked the folks on my webinar, what do you see? What new possibilities do you see out of this whole diagram now that you have the big picture? And here are the things that they said.
I'll jump in with the empowering piece. What I see is that coaches are just, kind of like teachers of teachers in a sense. Everything that we do in a classroom with our teachers is about empowering the students to take control of their own learning styles, their own futures. And I feel like that's the same thing that we're trying to do with our teachers, empower them to empower their students. So it's really exciting because it's kind of like a full circle process.
I was going to say that I think my role as a school administrator, I really have to build that trust and respect because I can offer to coach as much as possible, but until the person I'm working with sees me in that vein, I'm always evaluating them. Mm-hmm. And so it's in that constant work to try to build that trust. And if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If it's a really sticky situation that I'm in because of the title that I have, but I certainly am not. Amy knows, she's seen me working with my staff as a building principal, trying to build those relationships, and some get built a whole lot faster than others. So I can't stress that part enough, I don't think.
I was going to say that between the relationship building and building the trust and respect, there's a piece where we have to let them know that as the coach, you're eventually going to fade. You're not going to be there forever. So you're helping them build the skills to fly on their own.
I was thinking about the celebration piece and really celebrating where teachers are and what they're doing well, and refining what they're already doing so that it's not perceived as everything I do is wrong, or here's something new coming down the pike, or here's Ty who knows it all, but really finding what teachers are doing well and just helping them refine what it is that they're doing.
Now I think you're ready to take this diagram to a deeper level. So far, we have been talking about the actor, the coach, and the critic as though those are three separate people. The actor is the one who is in action. The critic is the one who's giving them judgments and opinions and expert advice. The coach is someone who is giving them questions, distinctions to think about, and ways to improve. The focus of the coach is to help that actor become the best that they can be. The critic is not necessarily committed to that. But I want to look at this from another way. These three circles are also inside each one of us all of the time. Let me use myself as an example. Right now, I am an actor delivering this webinar. I need to be focused right now on the people who are listening to the webinar, who are interacting with me. What are they saying? What other points do I want to make? How do I acknowledge what they're saying? I need to be in action. At the same time, over here on this shoulder is a little critic. Sometimes in cartoons it looks like a little devil. And the critic is saying, oh, you're having trouble with your technology. What if it doesn't work? What if this whole thing isn't going to work? What if people don't understand what you're saying? What if you're making this too complicated? Blah, 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 blah. So there are lots of things over here with this little critic on this shoulder. On this shoulder, I also have a coach who says, remember, what is your commitment? Your commitment is to share with the audience and the participants the things you've learned about coaching because you've found them valuable and you think it will empower them. Your commitment to them is more important than whatever that critic is saying to you over there. I have a very strongly developed coach, but many people don't. So you each have all three inside you all the time, but so do the people you're coaching. So you may be coaching somebody who is in action, being sucked into the vicious cycle because of a critic inside their head that is giving them a lot of negative feedback. And a lot of it may be historic or it could be current day. Some of them may have a coach that is starting to develop. Some of them may have a coach inside their head that is ineffective or not even there. Your job may be to serve as the role for the coach in the beginning and then to step back and encourage them to say encouraging things to themselves. We see this with adolescents and small children sometimes, that they need to develop a stronger positive influence on their life to counteract all of those critical comments that are also in there. So I invited the folks on my webinar to give me some feedback about what they see about the coach, the actor, and the critic inside themselves or the people they work with. And here's what they said.
Well, I feel like a coach has to have courage. They have to have the courage to share what they know, and they have to, be confident in their own ability to empower others, not to share what you know. I think it's easy to share what you know, but it's courageous to share it in a way that's very vulnerable. And I also feel that the courage could apply really well in the bridge. In order, you have to have courage to ask for help or to recognize a need for help, or to even just try something new. It takes courage to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the critic takes that snapshot too, and this is what it is. And there's no growth from the critic.
Absolutely.
I think the coach provides that opportunity for growth. And I think through not just sharing what I know, but asking questions, because I think the actor may know a lot more than maybe what has been displayed.
It's basically as what the teachers do with their students in school is to ask the questions, to bring the knowledge out, and to use really a lot of prior knowledge to get them there.
Okay, now I want to go a little bit further and talk about, so what's the job of a coach now that we know what a coach is? A coach has basically 4 responsibilities. If they're an instructional coach inside a school, I know that many of you may be looking at coaching in another field. And I think that these same 4 principles, the same 4 job descriptions can be applied to other fields as well. So you just substitute the words that are appropriate. First is align with the school or the organizational priorities and the principal or the leader's expectations. What is the big picture? Second, empower teachers individually or in teams. Third, establish a school-wide, organizational-wide, team-wide learning culture. And then fourth is facilitate data use. So let's talk about these. I want to talk to you about School A and School B. Align with school priorities and the principal's expectations. So I've had quite a number of School A's and quite a number of School B's. School A is where I've communicated with the principal ahead. I'm going to go in and I'm going to provide coaching and professional development related to co-teaching, for example. And the principal has let the faculty know Amy's going to be coming in next week or next month, and this is what the workshop's going to be. Here's where we'd like to see improvement. Here's what we expect from you. When I come in to do the workshops, the teachers say, we have been looking forward to this. We're really expecting to learn a lot, and we have lots of questions that we want to ask you. Then when I come back and do the individual coaching in teachers' rooms, when I walking by their classroom door, they come in. We're trying things. We'd like your feedback. What do you think about this? Can you come during our planning meeting? That's what happens in School A. In School B, the district made arrangements for me to come in. The principal wasn't included in that. I came into the building and the principal went, oh, yes, this is the day you're here. I think the teachers are gathering down in the library. Go ahead down. I'm going to be tied up, but I don't think I'm going to be able to join you today. I go on down to the library, and the teachers are sitting there with stacks of papers to grade, and they're sitting over there doing some lesson planning. And I stand up in front, introduce myself, and they're like, oh, is that what this workshop's about? I go ahead and do the same presentation I did in School A, but half the teachers aren't paying any attention to me. Then I come back to do my coaching days. And when I walk into the classrooms, the teachers go, oh, can I help you? Why are you here? They have no idea. They're not following up on anything that they learned in the workshop. And it's kind of a waste of time for me to be there. I guess you won't be surprised that in School A, the teachers made a lot of changes, a lot of growth, and made a lot of progress in their effectiveness with co-teaching. In School B, nothing changed. So I'm now turning down contracts for School Bs. So whatever your field, make sure that the coaching you are doing aligns with what the school or organization's priorities are and what are expected by the leader or the principal. Number 2, empower the teachers or whoever the people are that you are coaching. How are you going to develop the ability to build a relationship with each one or teams of them? When you see, just looking at this array of teachers and classrooms here, one teacher has the students really with him. They seem to enjoy him. They're all participating. Another teacher likes to do one-on-one. Another teacher pulls them into a little group. We have a teacher who seems to get angry with students at times, maybe inappropriately. And then we have a teacher who goes on and on, writing all kinds of things on the chalkboard. And are the students with him? Are they getting it? And then we have teams of teachers. So this is a big challenge. There are all kinds of personalities. There are all kinds of levels of expertise and background. How do you empower each teacher and get to know them? So what kind of skill set does a coach need in order to do activity number 2? What is it that the coach has to have in their toolbox in order to empower all of these different teachers and all of these different scenarios? I don't think it's the same skill set they need as a teacher. I asked the folks in my webinar what skill sets they thought, and here's what they said.
we know that a coach has to have a high level of background knowledge of strategies and terminology and just know what lines with what to make it work, but to empower that in someone else.
We can empower teachers to try new things, but if they don't feel that same level of trust with their school administrator, I'm wondering how willing they are to work with us in a coaching sense if that's not something that's been established in the school.
The third task of a coach is to establish a school-wide learning culture, or across the organization learning culture. And what I mean by that is that this is an environment where everybody feels free to throw as many baskets as they want, and they don't have to worry about how many times they miss. They are working together, and when one teacher experiments with something, they share it with another teacher. Or they go, well, there are two ways to do this. Why don't you do it this way? I'll do it this way, and we'll see what happens. Maybe my personality, this is a better way to do it, but maybe I'm going to have very different results, and you'd want to try this the next time. They can swap ideas back and forth. What skill set does it take in order for a coach to be able to establish the school-wide learning culture? By the way, the coach is not solely responsible for this. The school administration, the whole team is responsible for this, but I think that the coach plays an important role in that. And then fourth, facilitating data use. More and more, we are looking at ways to measure how effective we are. So there's the obvious student data, attendance and discipline and achievement data. How much are the students engaged in the classroom? Does the teacher only call on the ones that raise their hand? Are there ways for students to work in pairs or in small groups? If you're working in the transition field, what are the data related to employment and youth and families connecting with agencies? What are the evaluations out on a job site? There's all kinds of data related to IEP goals. And then inclusion rounds, which is something that I have developed where I can walk around to classrooms and look for 4 indicators of effectiveness in inclusion. And then family participation data, and there's some exciting things happening around the country. One of the things that a coach needs to think about is, how can I measure my own effectiveness as a coach? Is there some data? Are any of these data useful for me to measure my effectiveness? Is it how many teachers reach out to me? Is it how many changes happen with the teachers? Is that a measure of my growth? So that's a conversation that we can have. So here are the 4 jobs that I would say in the job description of a coach: aligning with school or organizational priorities and the principal's expectations, empower the teachers, establish a school-wide learning culture, and facilitate data use. So my question is, where and how do coaches develop those skill sets, and who is going to support, mentor, and coach them? Often my experience is that the instructional coach is they're all by themselves trying to figure this out. And yes, they communicate with the principal when they can get a hold of him or her, but who's going to help them hone their own skills as a coach? So I want to offer to you my Inclusion Coaching Cadre, which is going to be starting in the fall of 2018, but I may offer more in the future if it looks like there's interest. I like this definition of cadre. It's a group of trained or otherwise qualified personnel capable of forming, training, or leading an expanded organization or a skilled workforce. So we're a team working across the country as a cadre to improve our own coaching skills. So the Inclusive Coaching Cadre is designed for instructional coaches, but I want to expand that if we have people who are transition coordinators who are coaching students on the job site, or we have people who are working in other related fields. It will operate this fall from October the 12th to next spring, May the 10th. It will be on Fridays from 1 to 2:30 Eastern Time, skipping December. So nobody has time in December. It's all going to be online. And here's how it will be set up. Each month, everyone, all of the participants will read a book a month. I'm not expecting that you will read the whole book. If you can, that's great. But some months you're really busy. You have other priorities. If you get halfway through the book and you get some great kernels, you'll come back to that book later. So it's not a course. I am not doing a quiz on whether you read the book or not. It's people who join the cadre will be doing it because they're committed to their own growth. So you'll read as much that month as you can, and then you will write a monthly reflective journal where I will ask you to pick 3 kernels of wisdom from that book that impact you as a coach. When you read this particular piece, this is what you got, and this is how you think you'd use it. And we're going to put them onto an online journal so that other members of the cadre can read them if they have time, but I will read them before we get on a monthly group video conference where we will have a short presentation like the coaching diagram. We'll talk about something in common, and then we'll look at the kernels of value and wisdom that different members of the cadre got. And we'll have some brainstorming. Here's what I'm up against. Here's what I'm stuck with. How can we help each other? In addition, so that will be 7 monthly video conferences. In addition, each member will have 2 individual conference calls with me, one at the beginning so I can really get to know that individual coach, what they're coaching, what's the field, what's their background, what do they want to get out of it, and then another conference call at the end so we can kind of wrap it up and I can get their perspective and we can look at what's next for them. So what are these materials, this 1 book a month? I'm going to be using the LLR Corporate Education Program. The first book is Launching a Leadership Revolution. And each one of these come from the international curriculum that is sponsored by the LLR organization. These are being used by school districts and hospitals and large organizations, small organizations. The Navy is now using them. So each time it comes with a book and it comes with a pack of CDs that are what world leaders have talks that world leaders have given on the topics related to the book. What I like about this first book, Launching a Leadership Revolution, they talk about the levels of leadership. That it starts with leadership of yourself. Are you a leader in your own life, setting goals and keeping your own commitments to yourself? Then are you a leader in the small family or the small circle that you belong to? And then do you expand out that you're a leader in your workplace, your community? Then are you an empowerer of other leaders? And then do you encourage those leaders to become leaders in, out in the world in other places? So it talks about the levels of leadership, kind of the ripple effect. I have a doctorate in educational leadership, and we didn't talk about many of these leadership strategies. I learned so much from that one book. You can see the other books down here. Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey's son, Stephen M.R. Covey, changed what I think about trust. And The Slight Edge was an eye-opening book. These were all really valuable. And then the last book will be my book, which is called Included with the End in Mind, where I looked at how do we integrate inclusive practices with secondary transition practices, with family engagement practices, with youth empowerment practices. So the book talks about how we pull all of them together into one system. So each month you will get a book, you will get some CDs, you'll read, digest as much as you can, and then post online, and then we will have a once a month phone call to build a support group for each other. These are the outcomes that each person will develop their own plan for personal leadership development as a coach. How do I want to expand my own personal leadership as a coach? How do I promote positive attitudes in others? Because sometimes other people don't have a good attitude. How do I generate levels of trust in personal and organizational relations? From that one book on trust would be great. Expand conflict resolution skills. Sell your ideas to increase buy-in. I didn't say manipulate to increase buy-in, but to sell your ideas to other people. Explore approaches for systems change, inclusion, rollout, expansion. How do we take our ideas and expand them out? And then how do we create evaluative measures for your coaching impact? So that's the information I wanted to share with you about the Inclusive Coaching Cadre. I hope that you have learned some valuable information about what is a coach. I hope that you will reflect on this and find ways to use it. Within this course, you can download that diagram with the coaching circles that one of the members of the webinar said he wants to put up over his desk to keep himself reminded. Please contact me if I can provide more information to you or if you see other ways to use my services. Thank you and have a great day.
And so I was sitting here, when I was listening to you talk about how we have all three of these inside us, I was trying to figure out if those people who aren't coachable, if they just are so filled with the critic. I find this diagram to be very useful.
Well, I really like the bridge from coach to actor and figuring it out together. It is so easy to walk in and say, this is what you need to do and this is how you're going to do it.
I actually like the visual that you had. That was really good.
Where I want to tend to lean on the left side of that chart.
Exactly.
I'm really excited about the partnership that I'll be able to form with the teachers who I work with. I think this is going to expand that.